It's Wednesday, June 27th. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
So, we have the head of St. Andrew's College, and I'm a little concerned. The guy went to Oxford. He wrote a book called "The Reformed Palatinate, the Elohiste," which I, of course, have read several times, but it might be over, everybody else's head.
Oh, you're concerned about the listeners.
Yeah.
Not yourself,
not
obviously.
me looking like an idiot talking to this guy.
You're concerned about the listeners.
Of course. So I just want you to know that I'm going to take the role of the moron here so you don't have to. Dr. Benjamin Merkle, how are you, sir?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Very, very good. So the new St. Andrew's College, it's in, of all places, Moscow, Idaho.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Right.
And
we are the other NSA in Moscow.
So you are the only university or college that does not take any public money, right?
Well, actually, I would say we're one of a few because I think Hillsdale, Grove City, Patrick, there are about 5 or 6 of us that fall into that category, but we're one of the very, very few.
Okay, and I'm aware of Hillsdale, and I think they do a remarkable job, and it is completely different than what you find at anybody who takes a dime of public money. What's the difference?
Well, I think the first thing is, there's a principled sacrifice that you're making in order to preserve a certain sort of integrity and freedom in the institution. And I think that's what you have, is at the foundation, you have a certain freedom in the institution because you're not taking that money and tied to the strings that money comes with.
Are you having a hard time finding professors that think this way? I know of several universities that they do take state and federal funds, but they try to.
Right.
But they're having a hard time finding professors that aren't so screwed up.
Right. Well, no, actually, I think we have a pretty good lineup of professors, and of course, we're a conservative Christian college, and that probably defines the sort of DNA of the professors that we're looking for. And then once you have some of those theological principles there, then this stance, I think, goes along really nicely with it. But it's more for us a challenge of finding guys that are like theologically there with the academic chops that we need.
Yes.
I've noticed over the years, Doctor, that there's a...
You talking to me?
No, I'm not talking to you.
I'm a doctor.
You're not
too.
really a doctor.
No,
I'm talking to the actual
I'm a doctor of humanities, which
Ah.
means I'm a physician for anything in the body.
It's not what it means.
Pretty sure it is.
But I've noticed this sort of pattern over the years that a lot of schools in the public sphere that are outwardly, or at least were founded as Christian schools, Catholic schools, all sorts of various religious schools, don't seem to be all that religious anymore.
You're not talking about Yale.
There's a lot of
Harvard.
examples. We could go through dozens,
Yes.
probably. Do you think that is that tied to the fact that they're taking money from the government?
Well, I think that there are a lot of factors, but I can't help but think that the financial one is a huge player in it. It is such a huge, and the interesting thing is we know, of course, that the public universities obviously have to rely on quite a lot of state and federal money, but you expect that the private schools have some sort of independence from it. But what's really interesting is when you look into the actual finances of private liberal arts colleges, they're taking, in their revenue stream, they're getting more money from federal money, Pell Grants and student loans, than they are from tuition checks from mom and dad.
Wow.
And it doesn't register like that because the Pell Grant and the student loan comes in as tuition, but once you trace it all back, you see that they actually depend more on the federal government than they do on tuition. So if you think about it, it would be easier for them to cut all tuition than it is to cut the federal money. Wow. And so that means whenever there's any sort of string that is put on that federal money, as we saw, the Obama administration was really playing that hard. They took Title IX and applied it to sexual orientation, gender identity, and a whole host of other things, and then said that any school that's taking any federal money, you've got to fall in on these new definitions. And what you find is when push comes to shove, these schools need that money, and so they're going to change. They're going to find a way to accommodate it. And so,
go ahead.
It really is a pretty significant pull that I think has undermined the credibility of a lot of schools.
How concerned are you? I mean, as an outside observer, I am freaking out about sending my kids to college. I mean, I quite honestly don't want them to. I think you can take an you can audit MIT for free online. And right. I just don't need any of I don't need the indoctrination of my kids.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. It's indoctrination right now at most schools. It really is.
So how concerned should we as parents be? Because we're all sending our kids because, well, they have to go to college. And, well, my kid will, I think we are just putting them into the lion's den. And we're lying to ourselves that we're doing good.
Yeah, we're really, I think most people are pretty unthinking about what they're doing. And then what happens is a lot of us are remembering our college experience and projecting it on to what our kids would experience. And what we don't realize is just even in the last 20 years, it has changed so radically that you're not sending your kids to receive the experience that you had. It's a different world. So I would say, how alarmed should we be? I would think very, very, very alarmed. One of the statistics I think is really shocking is from a Christian perspective. We've seen a number of surveys that have demonstrated that it's of kids who are attending church regularly in their senior year in high school. By the time they finish their freshman year in college, 3 out of 4 of them will have walked away from their faith, and they're no longer involved as Christians. And so,
and it's even at so-called Christian colleges that were included in that, it still is like about half, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the Christian colleges are actually in a lot of ways almost worse than the state schools, because you go thinking you're getting one thing and you're sort of lulled into a false complacency. And there's something very different that's going on.
My daughter went to a Catholic college. She went to Fordham, and and they were teaching that the Bible is false, is not real. And I mean, it's like she came home and told me some stuff, and I'm like, wait, what? I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's a scary. One of the statistics I like to, or a visual image that I think helps parents to think about it is, if you were to sign your children up to be in the boats on the Normandy Beach invasion, they would have a better chance of surviving that than surviving spiritually in colleges now. And that's not something most parents are like eager to sign their children up for that experience, but we do it in a pretty unthinking way right now.
I think with the best intentions, I think. A lot of times you do this with the best of intentions.
Yeah, they have to have an education.
Because you just have to. Is there another path to go? And of course, there is another path to go. Of course, New St. Andrews is a great example of this, and there's a few others. But I think that's kind of what we do. We put ourselves in that position that I'm doing the best thing I can for my kids, and then you're hands off from there. And that's, you got to go further than that.
Yeah. Dr. Merkle, thank you so much, and thanks for holding the line with New St. Andrews College. And anything that we can do to help, we will.
Yeah, well, I think the more you raise awareness of this issue and note that, like I said, New St. Andrews, we're not the only ones. I do think there are a handful of other colleges that are doing something similar, and I'd love to see parents just think more critically about what that next step is. And one of them might be they don't need to go to college. I do think in some instances we overplay the significance of the college education, and there are a lot of better paths forward.
Amen to that. Thank you very much, Dr. Benjamin Merkle from New St. Andrews College. If you are thinking about sending your kids to college, I highly recommend you check it out.
It's an NSA website you'll feel comfortable going to as well. NSA.edu is the site.
It's just not the National Security Agency.
No, it's got nothing to do with that.
Nothing to do with that. All right. NSA in Moscow. I love that.